We're going to begin working in InDesign just a bit, do a few practice assignments, and then one project. So InDesign is a software that works with typography, meaning text, layout of text, and then it also includes the layout of images and design elements that it can create, as well as mostly what comes from other softwares, Adobe programs like Illustrator and Photoshop. So as a layout program, it was intended originally for print, like magazines and posters and newspapers, and it has evolved web publishing and mobile publishing, so online magazines, uh, articles, even websites, and now like phone apps. Okay, so and more, but just understanding, what its function is. For our first practice assignment, we're going to be making a certificate. So thinking, that it's the end of the year, what could your certificate be about? It can be silly, it can be funny, it can be serious, it can be whatever you like, but just overall positive. And I'm going to walk you through some of these steps here for a simple certificate. Some things you need to know beforehand. When you go to create this certificate, it's going to be a little different. You're going to file document or command N, and you'll see that you need to tell InDesign your intent. So the options in CS6 are print, web, and digital. So we're going to be working with print for our first one, and we just want one page to keep that the way it is, the given. Your facing pages should not be clicked. That's for when you have books or a magazine, like 2 pages, one on each side, left and right. We just need one. Keep it as a letter or make sure that it is chosen as a letter. And then you'll see that the width and height is already calculated for you from 8.5 and 11 to picas. So just let that be. Even if you were to type in, 11 IN, it will recalculate that into picas. Okay, so just because in picas doesn't mean you have to think in picas. You can tell it to be in inches. We're not going to work with columns and gutters just yet. The margins, that's basically a little bounding box inside that you'll see of your document. The one thing to know is as you change this, up and down, you'll see that they all react the same unless you break the chain, and then you can change them individually. Okay, so for now, just keep the given. That's fine. Hit OK, and then you'll see there's your margins. Here's your document. Okay, let's get our space set up, and then we'll talk about tools. So up in the top right there, you'll see you have many options. We're going to do just essentials. So taking a look at essentials and maybe grabbing a couple other panels as we go. If it's not already, layers and character. All right, and then let's go over and take a look at your toolbar. So the tools we'll be working with today, things that are similar from the other programs are your selection tool, V, the black, the direct selection tool, A, which can be helpful as well, the white arrow, and then the text tool, the type tool, T, and the rectangular frame tool, F. That X in the middle kind of denotes that you're going to be placing an image or design element. InDesign also has a shape tool, gradient tool, all right, and then we have our fill and we have our stroke. Okay, so those are some of the things that we'll be working with today. Something to get used to with InDesign is, so being that we want this to be in the middle, I'm clicking on 4.25 and 5.5. Okay, so now we have the middle. Next thing we're going to do is make some layers, make about 5. Let's name what we need. So we need a border, we need a description, we need design elements, we need a title. We need a name. And you might even want to do something like, okay, so you can make more, that's your choice. Let's talk about some basics when it comes to things like creating a title for your award. So I'm going to click on that layer. I'm going to get my type tool, hit T. And when I'm working in my type tool, what's different is instead of clicking, what we want to do is we want to designate a box. Okay, and that box can be changed, but it gives us a space of an idea of what is going to be, what that space is going to be composed of and how much space it's going to take up, right? So ideally, if I'm going to make a box this size, then my text is going to fit that box. So I'm going to just type just so I can kind of get an idea of where things would be placed. You don't necessarily have to have the title just yet. So this is just for an example. I placed my title of my award, and right away I can see that because I'm in my type tool, InDesign has up at the option bar all these things I might need to work with when it comes to type. So these can also be separately accessed by your character panel as well as your paragraph panel, which all these are found in Window, and for InDesign it's in Types and Tables, and you'll see character and paragraph, and the other ones I probably wouldn't worry about too much just yet. Okay, so with that selected, I can change my font. I can change the style of my font. I can change the size. Keep in mind that we probably want it to fit the box, so you can see, let me show you actually. This was too big for my box that I created. I go back to V or hit Escape V, and I can open my box and see that the font is the type is still in there, right? But by making the box smaller, right, it's looks as though it's cut off, but it's not. Nothing's been deleted. And InDesign tells you that there's content in there that you can't see with this little red dot there, right? And so I just clicked on it and it says, well, here's the content that was there, right? And instead of double clicking, if I just click once, it will allow me to drag it and place it somewhere else, right? So that might be another way for me to work. So what I want to do is I want to use this box to help me place things. So for me, I'm going to put my box right at the margin there, and you saw that smart guide pop up, that little pink line that says you're right in the middle of your doc, and that's where you want to be. All right, I'm going to bring the bottom of this up, right? And I need to find a font size that will fit this. So I'm going to triple click 1, 2, 3, so I can select that right there instead of just one word. And I'm going to resize this so that my font fits that box. All right, and with a triple click, I can center. So find a font that you like, or even download a font that you like that's free and safe, doesn't have anything funky that's going to affect your computer. You can edit individual letters, so that's called kerning. So for example, in this font, to me, this R&D is a little too close. I want it to be just a little bit farther. So I'm going to just place my cursor in between it, and I'm going to go over to the character panel, and right here, this is the kerning. So same as this. So if I go down, it'll bring them closer. And if I go up, it brings them just a little bit farther apart. right? So I don't want too much of a change. And maybe I want to do the same thing in between here. So I place my cursor there and I say just a little bit of space. And then as you're doing that, you're going to think, you know, maybe there's a couple others. So that's kerning. And another one that might be useful is having your font move within the box. So one way is to go here to your baseline shift. That's here and here, right? And you can just roll over and see. And you'll see my font shift down as I go. Okay? That way it's a little bit more centered in the box. That might be useful. All right, so I have my title of my award, and we'll do one more together. I'll do description. So for description, you're going to place the size of your text box. So in your description, you're going to describe your award, and maybe describe like why recipient received it. And you're going to have a couple paragraphs to fill the space, but just for the sake of it, I'm going to just kind of show how much space that type would take up. And then this might be where we want to work with that baseline again to kind of get the font to be in the middle. So for that, I want to select this whole paragraph. So instead of a triple click, it's a quadruple click, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you select everything, and then you can move your type down a little bit if that's helpful, or escape and hit V select and just actually shift the size of your box. And I'm going to have it be right on that smart guide line in the middle there, or you might choose to have it right on that margin. Now remember, you can have things go off your margin. This is just kind of being safe of where your print will be not cut off. Okay, so you'll eventually find your layout where you want things to be. And I would do this for type box. And if you're unsure of who gets what or what the reward's for, just do what I'm doing here. Like, you're getting the composition, you're practicing with the tools, you're thinking about the style. Okay. And then I'm going to place this using my smart guide to center everything. Another thing that you might need to know is creating color. So InDesign gives you limited color, right? Fills and strokes. And if I were to select all this, I can choose the fill here. Or, like you saw, I can go to color. Hitting that reset button, you can choose your own colors. So in our next assignment, we'll talk about bringing more colors in. This is just, work with some basics, get some colors you like, and you can always mix your own colors. So how little or much black is the K, how little or much yellow is the Y, how little or much magenta is the M, and how little or much cyan is the C. All right, so you've been making your own colors, and it's live right there. You can see what color you're making. So how dark, how light, how much yellow, how much magenta. All right, and then when you click off, you'll see. Okay, so you might want to be working with some colors, and that would be one way of doing that with your type. Another thing you might want to be doing is adding a background. A shape. Click and tell it what size it is, or you can just draw. and then you can go to the fill, choose a color. Now, so it looks like my background got mixed up, so I'm going to open that layer, drag that rectangle to go to the layer it belongs in, which is background, and now it goes behind everything. Now, we don't necessarily, or I don't want it to be that dark, so I'm going to select that and tell it to really lower the opacity there, so it just has a tone, okay? So the other two things I want to cover before you guys work on your own is bringing in and placing an image, but also how you might design with Illustrator or Photoshop to make that image. Okay, so the first thing you need to do when it comes to making an image is, instead of a type box, which you can put an image in a type box, right? But the tool that really is designated for that is the F rectangle frame tool. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to compose that I would be putting, you know, like a seal or a picture or whatever design element you like. For me, I'm going to put in the top right. And you have that selected. You're going to go to Command D or File Place, and then find your image that you're going to place into there. Okay. Now I've already made some in Illustrator, and I'll show you that real quick. So in Illustrator, what I did is I made 3 artboards because I knew I was going to have 3 things from Illustrator come into my certificate: a border, a little symbol, and then this little shape that I stylized and designed. So what I want to show you is how I'm going to bring those in working with multiple artboards, okay? So when I'm in InDesign, this is selected, I hit Command D or File Place, and then I find my file. In this case, it's an AI. I have multiple artboards. I just want to pick one. I don't want the first one, so I need to make sure I click Show Import Options. That needs to be on. Hit Open, and you'll see, is it this one? No. Is it this one? No, it's that one. So I move over, I say this is the one I want, hit OK, it'll place that in there, okay? You might remember that InDesign can format the size. So with that still selected, I'm just going to hit Control click. I usually like fit content proportionally. And if you're interested in how I did the other elements, so this was my example here, like the border and this little banner. I'll show you that real quick. So that is all in Illustrator, and this is basically just a rectangle with a none fill and a stroke. But when I selected up here the style of the stroke, I went down here, went to the libraries, and I just chose borders. You could choose any of these, but I went through here. Okay, so that's where I got that one that kind of went with the color scheme I had. For this was just a symbol. So I grabbed it from the symbol library. So you could take any of these symbols and put it in your library. So I was able to, for example, take this and hit edit symbol, and then I could select certain parts and put a fill or a specific stroke on there. Okay, so that's what I did for this. And then this is just a circle with a star. So real quick, I made a circle. I grabbed a star. And remember that when you click up with your arrow keys in your drawing, you can make more. Click down, you can make less when it comes to spokes. Okay. I selected these two, went to my align, and I went horizontal align, vertical align. So Illustrator did that for me. I had no I have a no stroke on there now. I want a stroke to make it pop out. Okay. Oh, actually, take that back. What I did was I combined those. So that's something that's new, is I selected both of those and I went to my Pathfinder panel. So I found my Pathfinder, and mine's right here. And I just told them that you're going to unite now. You're a one shape. So now that took away the center. So now I can make a stroke on just that one shape, and that will pop up. And then this has a drop shadow and I think an outer glow. So I went to effect and just stylize. And you could do any other effect that we played with to make, a design for any of these. Okay, and then I took a copy, held shift, made it smaller, and again, just to be sure that it was aligned, horizontal and vertical aligned, and then that was how I made that little seal. Now, and I could do more, right? That was just something simple. Okay, so that's how I did those. You are welcome to do many more things than just those simple tasks. And as you're working, what you can do is see a proof, and that's in screen mode presentation. And you'll see the shortcut is Shift W. So when I hit Shift W, you can see what you're doing, and that's something to check here and there. Just hitting escape to get off that. All right, so once you're done, you can hide your grids and then take a screenshot of this, as well as save, export as a JPEG, okay, and turn both those in. All right, and then it's up to you if you're going to print this or send it to somebody digitally. It's your call if you end up using it personally. All right, so that's that to begin our practice with InDesign.